What's going on, fellow fantasy basketball lovers? Welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Basketball this week, presented by District of Buckets. We love to see you guys again. We just hit over 100 subscribers last week. We really want to thank you guys. Make sure if you aren't subscribed, which like 80% of you aren't, hit that subscribe button right now. Hit that like button. And I'm going to get you guys to comment whether you like it or not. Tell me who is standing in the way of Nikola Jokic getting the MVP this year. All right, I think he's got it. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments. Let's roll the tape. Let's get right into it. We got to move into the section that makes us all the money that we don't have yet, that everybody watches, that we get more views than the full podcast because people just want to watch the segmented version of it. Waiver wire pickups. Last week, we gave you more than we had ever given you, with 12 waiver wire pickups. We're topping it again. I got, how many do I got? 16, like 20, 21, if we're including the deeper league guys. 21 guys you should be looking at on your fantasy basketball waiver wire. I got you. Carl's got you. You guys loved it last week. We're topping it. Let's start it off. DeAndre Jordan. So let me preface this. There are only 6 teams that play on Thursday. So there is a chance that Thursday can win and lose you this fantasy basketball week. The Nets are one of them. DeAndre Jordan and the Nets play 4 games this week, including one on Thursday, which only 5 other teams will do. And in his last couple of games, he is averaging, hold on, my Google Sheets is messed up. He's averaging 27.5 in the last 7 days, which is pretty good. And that's 27.5 points that you aren't going to get if you don't have a team playing on Thursday. So look to pick up DeAndre Jordan in your fantasy league. Moving on. Kendrick Nunn in the Heat. They're another team that plays on Thursday this week. They play 4 games, including one on Thursday. He's averaging 36 in the absence of Goran Dragic. That is a beautiful waiver wire ad. And he's shown it time and time again that he's going to be a consistent scorer for the Miami Heat when Goran Dragic is out. Okay, another player on the Heat, Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is playing 31 minutes a night right now as a backup on the Miami Heat. His ceiling could be very, very high, and Carl actually threw out a stat earlier that was pretty funny. Kelly Olynyk has, one less or one more point total than Russell Westbrook this year?
The other time it's one more.
That's crazy. Kelly Olynyk is just as valuable, arguably, in a sense, as Russell Westbrook so far this year.
And it's because he's playing games.
Yeah, he plays them. He doesn't sit back-to-backs. He's playing whenever the Heat play. So shout out Kelly Olynyk. Moving on. Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis are good ads this week. They also play 4 games, and one of them happens to be on Thursday. You might ask, who should I pick up? They kind of play the same role for the Bucks. As of late, Brook Lopez has been the starter. But in that same time span, Bobby Portis has been outplaying Brook Lopez. And so you could make a case that Bobby Portis could move into the starting lineup, in which he would see even more fantasy value. So I would argue pick up Bobby Portis before Brook Lopez, but it's going to be kind of a wash. They kind of come out with the same fantasy output. Another team that plays on Thursday and also has 4 games this week, Norman Powell and the Toronto Raptors. Norman Powell, since returning from his absence in the NBA, has been lights out, except for his 1 game against Boston in the last week. He's been absolutely lights out, playing really well. And like I said, he's playing a ton of minutes, and he's playing on Thursday, the game where not a lot of teams play, and he plays 4 games this week. So look out for Norman Powell.
Also, a quick correction. It's 1 less for Kelly Olynyk than that 1 more. Sorry, I had to look that up. Okay. It's 6, ESPN standard, it is 615 total for Russell Westbrook, 614 total for Kelly Olynyk. Okay.
Thanks for the correction. We don't want any more angry commenters.
Yeah.
Moving on, Daniel Theis again. I feel like I mention him almost every week. He has 4 games coming this week. Starting from now on, these guys don't play on Thursday, so these are just going to be good guys to add. Daniel Theis plays 4 games this week, 2 against the weak-ass Atlanta Hawks. There's no D in Atlanta. There's no D in the Hawks. That sounded kind of sus, but he's playing more minutes than Tristan. We're going to move on. He's playing more minutes than Tristan Thompson, even though Tristan Thompson started a few games. But Theis has been the guy that's been getting blocks and steals. He's a blocks and steals machine for Boston. I love the guy. He plays so hard. If the guy could just get a call to go his way, I feel so bad for him. But Daniel Theis has been a consistent producer for the Celtics, no matter who's healthy. He's always been a guy that you can rely on. Once again, Josh Jackson.
Yep.
Josh Jackson has 4 games coming up this week. He's playing big minutes. Another steals and blocks guy. He's a defensive stud, especially for the Pistons. He benefits more when Blake Griffin doesn't play, which seems to be more and more often. You never know. Blake Griffin probably doesn't have much of a future in Detroit, I don't think. But the guy can't play 2 games in a row anymore, it seems.
It's the first time he actually did it in years, I think. It was like this past week, I want to say.
Yeah, it's crazy. He hasn't dunked since 2019, which is another crazy stat that's been popping up lately. Okay, moving on. Eric Gordon. He could be a good ad for this week. That was a weird noise. Eric Gordon could be a good ad for this week, depending on the severity of Oladipo's injury. The Rockets have 4 games this week, and he played pretty well. He literally played well every game except for the week that I told you guys to pick him up. So screw you, Eric Gordon, but he could be a good fantasy ad this week. Next up, Dougie McBuckets. Dougie McBuckets has started the last several games over Jeremy Lamb, who I'm pretty high on Jeremy Lamb. But he's seeing a significant increase in minutes, and he's the starter. He's shooting very well. If you're in a categories league, 3-point machine. The Pacers only have 3 games this week, but they have a quick start. They play Monday and Wednesday. You could probably drop him after Wednesday, but that's a good guy if you want to pick up for a Monday, Wednesday stream. Dougie McBuckets. 6 God, Lou Will, and Nick Batum and Reggie Jackson are all benefiting from Paul George's absence. That could be short-lived because PG might return this week. But in any sense, they play 4 games this week on every other day. So look out for Lou Will, who's been playing so well. Nick Batum has picked it up a little bit. We've been kind of hard on this podcast. And Reggie Jackson, who has been getting the starts in place of Paul George. Another guy, Dylan Brooks. He's averaging 30-plus minutes per game and is playing really well. 4 games this coming week against some below-average defensive teams, so look out for Dylan Brooks on your waiver wire. He could be a good ad. Nerlens Noel. He is now the starter for the New York Knicks at the center position. And he will be there for the coming weeks, probably up to 6 to 7 weeks with Mitchell Robinson out. He is a blocks machine. The guy averages like 2 blocks a game or something like that whenever he starts. So Nerlens Noel could be a guy that you look out for on the waiver wire. The Knicks play 4 games this week, including a beautiful back-to-back to end the week. That's something we always love to see, is a back-to-back to end the week. You pick them up right before the end of the week. You fill up those empty spots. Chef's kiss. All right, the guy that is benefiting from all the point guard absences in OKC, a guy we mentioned last week, and he's just gotten better since. Hamidou Diallo. I got his name right this time.
There you go.
He is a starter for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he is hooping. He could be a full-time ad for you if you were in deeper leagues. He should be a full-time ad for you if you're in deeper leagues. If you're in more shallower leagues, like 10 teams, he could be a good streaming option, especially because he has 4 games this week and a back-to-back on Tuesday, Wednesday. When you're looking to stream players, Back-to-backs are always a beautiful sight just because you don't have to waste a couple ad drops, acquisitions, and you kind of benefit from getting more players on your team that actually play games and that aren't sitting out. Another guy that you love to see, Derrick Jones Jr. will be starting without a minutes restriction for the Trailblazers. Could be a full-time roster spot.
Airplane mode is back.
Yep, airplane mode is back. Look out for Derrick Jones Jr. You don't have to add him right now necessarily. He's not owned in a lot of leagues. But Derrick Jones Jr. should be a guy that is at least watch listed. If he has a couple good games in a row, immediate add. Pick him up right away. Continuing on with the Trailblazers, we got Gary Trent Jr. Hoops every damn game. 3-point machine. Gary Trent Jr. I gotta throw in another guy that should be looked at in deeper leagues.
Okay.
This man averages a point per minute. Carmelo Anthony. He plays 23 minutes a game. Every game, 23 points. The dude is consistent at hitting those in the corner. Little up fake, side step, put it up. You get at least 3 of those a game. Carmelo Anthony is a guy that should be looked at in deeper leagues because he is averaging a point per minute. Moving on, San Antonio Spurs. Poeltl, Jakob Poeltl. Still don't know how to say his name.
Poeltl. I've heard everything.
Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Hooping. He has a back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday. He has a double-double and a block machine. I don't even know if he should be talked about on the waiver wire because the dude should be owned. Mm-hmm. Pick up Jakob Poeltl, whatever, while Marcus Aldridge is out because the dude is hooping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Deeper league ads. Actually, why don't you go ahead and do your waiver wire ads, and then I'll get into deeper league ads.
Okay. That's a lot. Wow.
That was so many.
Yeah, I would say you.
Did I steal your Dylan Brooks?
Huh?
Did I steal? You weren't doing Dylan Brooks, were you?
Dylan Brooks, no.
Okay, cool.
No. You actually didn't steal anyone from me. So
that's crazy. I did 16 before.
None of them were steals. I got 3 really quick names. One, Jayshawn Tate for the Houston Rockets. Just they're banged up, and he's a rookie. He's starting to get a lot more time for them, and I think that owned in 12.7% of leagues is pretty low for a guy that's going to see like the amount of time he'll see with these injuries going on. Because as right now, Jayshawn, trying to look it up real quick, minutes wise, like where minutes wise at first it's like you've seen him like just stuffed on the bench, and even though he's not getting like great minutes, like you're seeing a slow uptick, and that's just a guy to watch list right now, and keep an eye out because I just want to see what happens with all these with all these injuries. And or not necessarily minutes, because he hit a point where you'd see like 20-something minutes, and now he's getting back to around like 30 a game, and that type of opportunity is kind of hard to pass up on, at least as a watch list guy. His production has also looked pretty good since the end of January, like right as he like had his pretty big 39-point fantasy game, and then he had another 47-point game against Memphis on the 4th of this month, and so there's a lot of opportunity there for him in Houston. So at 12.7, that I said 12.7, whatever it was, I'd say that's a guy you at least want to watch list and maybe even consider streaming from time to time. My second guy is a guy we talked about on the Lakers segment, is Kyle Kuzma. Also more for the fact that he's owned in 35.7% of leagues. And yes, I understand AD's going to come back and siphon a lot of those minutes, but with the way that the Lakers have been kind of shorthanded, Kuzma fills a lot of different spots, and he's a guy that I think is worth it if you can stash someone on your bench just in case any of these things happen, because he still has a solid, we talked about on you're going to see on the segment, is that he has a solid floor for when it comes to his minutes, like more solid than at least I thought initially. And maybe, you get AD out for a week here and there, and then boom, you plug him in your lineup and he balls out. So he's a guy that I think is owned in just, he needs to be owned in more leagues at that 35.7%. And then my third guy is Patty Mills. He somehow every week is a guy I look at and I'm like, I don't really know if I should play him or pick him up. Like he's just one of those guys that I'm just never really too sure about, but he's at least in 10-man. And in 12-man, he's been on the roster the whole time. But, he's only rostered in 19.6% of leagues. And he's playing a solid bit of minutes, and he's got a necessary role. And he's a guy that I think has had, since 118, he hasn't gone below 10 double-digit fantasy points, which is something to take note as a guy like you're looking at on the bench. And I'm not saying any of these guys are like superstars, they're going to turn your whole team around, but as you know, streaming, you need to keep an eye on that. And those are my three guys for the week that you need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's also on that Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back with Jakob Poeltl, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
So he could be a guy that you stream for those 2 days and then drop. Well, time to get into deeper league guys. Those were a couple deeper league guys, but I got some more. You thought I was done. I'm not. Patrick Williams. He's playing a lot of minutes for the Bulls. They play 4 games this week. A guy you should look at in deeper leagues. Saddiq Bey for the Detroit Pistons. He's had a bunch of boards and points in his last couple games. He could be a starter in the future, depending on the future of Blake Griffin in Detroit. Right now, it's not looking like he's got a lot of minutes, but he's a guy that should be watch listed at minimum, especially in deeper leagues. Willie Hernan-Gomez. He's getting dusted off in New Orleans. Steven Adams' production has taken a bit of hit because Willie Hernan-Gomez is getting some more minutes. A guy that has a lot of ability on the basketball court, should at least be watch listed in deeper leagues. Maybe even in 10-team leagues. My guy, the guy I love to talk about the most, IQ God, Emmanuel Quickley. Even with D Rose in the picture, it doesn't matter. He's still getting buckets. He put up a ton of points the last game. Shout out Emmanuel Quickley. If he's not already owned in your deeper league, what are you doing? Next up, Terrence Ross. He's the only Orlando Magic guy I'm going to talk about this week. They only play 3 games this week, but they have a solid start to the week, starting on Wednesday. But not big on Terrence Ross. Just let it be known. But deeper leagues, look out for Terrence. And I already mentioned this guy, but I got to bring it back to him. Carmelo Anthony, point per minute. Gotta love to see it from the old man himself. Shout out Carmelo. He only has 3 games this week, but also plays a back-to-back on, let's see here, Tuesday and Wednesday. Also, he plays against the Wizards on Friday. So basically pick him up Tuesday through Friday and then drop him. He's going to get a lot of points against the Wizards, who struggle a little bit on defense, like this much on defense.